everybody, JGC Anime here today. We're here to review That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Season 3. So without further ado, let's just hop right into this. So, what is the story of Slime Season 3? Basically, now that all their previous problems with Clayman and stuff have been all resolved, now Tempest is having to deal with the Holy Church. And since Hinata is part of the Holy Church, it looks like we're finally going to have our big showdown between Rimuru and Hinata. And yeah, that's how the season starts, where the Holy Church and Tempest, after going through some meetings, are ready to face off against each other. So yeah, that's not a great description, but we're just gonna roll with it. So, in terms of spoiler-free thoughts for Slime Season 3, it's alright. Even though I love Slime Seasons 1 and 2, especially Season 2, I consider Season 2 to be one of my favorite seasons of an anime of all time, I really didn't care for Season 3 in the slightest. Like, Season 3 has so many problems inside it, and I'll go over some of them in a bit, which I know some people won't agree with me on, but I'll talk about them in a bit. But it just feels like, as a whole, Season 3 felt more like a filler season designed to set up future events rather than be a bunch of events themselves, which is sad because previous seasons of Slime managed to build up events while also telling their own stories in a way that made everything interesting, which again, we'll go over that later. But basically, I just feel like Slime Season 3 could have been something amazing, but ended up just being kind of fine. Like, there are some episodes that are so freaking boring in this season that I do not care for, and while I do think that the good episodes balance out the bad episodes, I just don't think there was too much good stuff in here, and it reminded me a lot of how I felt when I was watching Tsukimichi Season 2, which thankfully it is better than Tsukimichi Season 2. Like, Season 2 of Tsukimichi I still consider to be not very good. But this season, even though it does have some weak episodes in there are still a lot of good episodes to balance them out, which sadly Tsukimichi did not have. And that's why, even though I can't say I love this season, it is decent. Just not phenomenal. It's not incredibly incredible, but yeah. I enjoy a few things in it. I definitely think that as the characters act in this season, I think that they all act like themselves and, you know, are fun to watch, they're entertaining to watch, and even the new characters they introduce are really fun to watch. And the fact that we do get to understand more of the world and stuff like that is really nice. I just wish we could have gone about it in a different way, because the way this season goes through things is, without spoiling anything, a lot of it is meetings. Like, there are a lot of meetings in this season, which I know some people are just like, oh man, yeah, it's world building, everyone, just roll with it because it's world building. I really wish they went about the world building in a different way, because I get the whole idea of the meetings. They were meant to try to build up these threats and stuff like that, which would come into later seasons. But I feel like seasons 1 and 2 handled them a lot better, since in season 1, without spoiling anything, in case you're watching all these reviews without the spoilers, which I don't know why you would, but basically in season 1, they try to build up the main villain of season 2 without having him be the main villain in season 1. Like, they built him up through another villain, and that villain acts as like a teaser for what's to come with the next villain. And I feel like seasons 1 and 2 definitely managed that a lot better than season 3 did, where season 3 focuses way too much on talking about the enemies than actually focusing on the enemies. They didn't try to create any new threat that would guide Tempest towards some new problems. They didn't try to create any conflict. It was very tame in comparison to some of the other stuff we've seen from Slime. And I wish that we went about this in a different way, because I think that had they gone about this in a way where there was actual threats and dangers, season 3 could have been really freaking good. Like, if they spent more time trying to develop Tempest through the lens of Remo just slowly growing it bit by bit with different threats coming to try to cause problems, I think that definitely season 3 could have been a far more entertaining season than it ended up being. It's just, I felt like as a whole, it lacked a lot of the same fun and entertainment that the first two seasons had. And it's not because I'm just like a shonen anime junkie. Heck, one of my favorite shows ever is The Dangers of My Heart, a rom-com, a romantic comedy that's primarily not action, but just two characters growing closer to each other. Or heck, there's also Dr. Stone, which technically is part of shonen. However, it focuses more on science than actual action. While there is action in the show, it's primarily a show about science, which I enjoy it for that aspect. I don't care as much for the action. I care about the science more than anything in that show. And I just feel like Slime could have been better with how it handled its world building. I didn't need a bunch of action like what a lot of people have claimed. Like, there are a lot of people who watched the season and said, oh, these guys just hate it because it's world building and not action. No! I am perfectly fine with world building. I just felt like the way they went about it was really bad. I think that the way they went through it, just being a bunch of meetings here and meetings there, I didn't like the way they went about it with that. I think that there could have been so much more to this season and could have made it so much more interesting if they didn't try to spend so much time just talking to each other in a room. And I know that some people will, of course, be mad at me for this, saying, oh no, you don't understand, the world building was so important. And I understand that. I get it. I understand that world building is important in a story. Some of my favorite adventures and movies and stuff have a lot of world building. However, that doesn't change the fact that when it comes to this show, the world building was best handled when you threw them in the midst of a plot. Like, there was world building within a plot. That is what, in my opinion, is the best way to handle your world building, especially with stuff like slime. Instead of trying to dedicate so much time to just talking about these things and discussing them, instead, you could have shown stuff that actually involved those things. Actually try to dive into everything instead of trying to just simply be like, oh, well, you know, these things, we're just gonna talk about them for a little while and then move on. And that's just why I don't love the meetings in this season. People can claim all they want that it's shonen brain or something, but the fact of the matter is, for me, I just felt they could have gone through things a lot better. But that's just my feelings on the meeting stuff, because I know somebody might complain about me complaining about the meetings, but that's just how I feel when it comes to them. But moving past that, I would like to say that some of the arcs in this season that occur when it isn't a meeting tended to be rather anticlimactic. I'll go more into it in the spoiler section, but there are times in the show where I think the story is really starting to kick up, like get really freaking good, but then all of a sudden it just stops. All of a sudden some other thing happens and boom, the whole plot's fixed now. And I feel like that was a bit of a problem, because I think that there definitely could have been a more interesting plot here had they not just thrown a character in there to fix all the problems. And while I definitely think that when it comes to this season, I enjoy the second half more than the first half still had some good moments, but I definitely think that as a whole, the second half of this season, which was a big festival thing, which I won't go into too much detail on right now, it was far, far more interesting than what season 3's first half had to offer. But all in all, I definitely think there were some interesting things to throw into this season, but I definitely find that while there are some great characters that I think also got added to the cast, there are definitely some problems in there as well that really ruin a lot of the vibe of this show, and why I just don't really care much for season 3. And honestly, I think it's by far the weakest season of Slime. Like, I did not care for the season pretty much at all, and the only reason I sat through it was because I like Slime. Although, I can't even say that I watched all these episodes week by week or anything, because there were times where the plot got so uninteresting that I literally would put down the show for like 3 to 4 weeks and then just watch them all in a row. And fun fact, it's way more fun to watch them in a row than it is to watch them every single week. Like, as I watched these episodes, my brain just thought, wow, if I had to wait a week for this, I would have hated this. And that's what's sad about this season. It's more enjoyable to watch as a whole than week by week, which was not the same for all the other seasons. This season literally requires you to have to watch it all at once if you don't want to feel bored, which I don't like. I feel like this show could have been a heck of a lot better if they managed things within the pacing a lot better too, but that's just me. I find this season overall just not amazing, and I really wish they could have made it a lot better, but yeah, that's all I can really say without spoiling anything, so we're just gonna hop into the spoiler section now. Here's the timestamps when the spoilers end. If you have seen the show, I'd recommend sticking around here my thoughts, but if you haven't, you should skip to the intro getting spoilers. But again, if you have seen it, I recommend sticking around here my thoughts if you have seen it. So yeah, I'm gonna cut up for 5, and I'm going to enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now to go over some of the more positive things I have to say about this season. I mostly complained about the negatives at the start because I just didn't have that many things I could say that were positive that weren't spoilers, but let's hop into some of the stuff I really enjoyed in this season. Most of it is going to be for the second half, but I guess one thing I can say about the first half is I do like some of the scheming that went behind the scenes, like how the main villains, which is like this group of 6 elder dudes, I don't remember their name, but basically these guys were trying to, maybe it's 5, but basically these dudes were trying to trick Hinata into going and fighting Rimuru and have their little rematch after their fight in season 2, which honestly really loved that fight. So I was very excited to see this rematch. And their scheming was entertaining. However, the way they met their end was not. And we'll go over that in a little bit, but I do think that their whole scheming and how they got Hinata to fight Rimuru was far more interesting than I would have expected from weirdos like them. But overall, I did enjoy their little scheming. Although, I can't say I loved every part of this arc, because ignoring the meetings, because at this point, I've already said my things about the meetings, so I'm not going to dive deeper into them. Just the fact that I thought they were really wasted potential to have some really good stories slapped in there, but it is what it is. But moving past that, I'd like to talk about the big meat and potatoes of the first half of the season, which is the actual fight between the people of the Holy Church, like all the Knights of the Holy Church, against Rimuru's nation of monsters. And when it started, I was absolutely loving it. I was really enjoying the different conversations everyone was having with each other, how Rimuru's team proved that they were stronger than the Holy Knights and stuff like that was really freaking enjoyable. I liked it a lot. Even the stuff with Diablo, who as a character I'm still not certain about, ended up being extremely entertaining when he easily took care of some of the Holy Knights, and I love that so freaking much. But then we get to the actual fight between Rimuru and Hinata. I don't know if it was the case for everyone else, but I felt like their fight was extremely rushed. Like, their whole fight felt rather anticlimactic, and I think it could have been handled a lot better. And it didn't help that right after their fight ended, the sword that Hinata was holding shoots out an attack at her and nearly kills her. And I thought, oh dang, I wonder how Rimuru's gonna help fix this. And then these evil villains show up, the main villains of the story, and they're just like, we're gonna kill Rimuru. And then Rimuru somehow just survives the disintegration spell. And they're like, Nani? What? But then after that, right after it seems like things are getting kind of crazy and you wonder how Rimuru's gonna be able to defeat them, all of a sudden, freaking Valentine or, Luminous shows up and is just like, all right, I know that things are intense. I know that things are getting really good, but let me just wrap this up real quick. Basically, she just comes in and just instantly just snaps away all the problems. Just instantly healing Hinata from her wound that Rimuru couldn't heal, and also took down these other guys, just killed them instantly. And I just felt like that was such an anticlimactic way to end the story. I felt like it was such a weird way to wrap things up, and it felt like the author, when writing that story, was just trying to wrap it up by the end of the volume instead of actually try to write a good ending. Instead, the author was just like, all right, we're nearing the end of the volume. I gotta finish this up somehow. I know. Let's just have some characters show up and be like, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna take care of this real quick. And I did not like that. I don't hate the character Valentine. Heck, I think she's a really interesting character overall. And I would like to see more of her, because so far what we've seen from her from the OVAs and stuff like that haven't been the strongest, and I would like to dive deeper into who she is as a character. But I really didn't appreciate her just coming in, and I really wish we got to dive deeper into who she was as a character before she just shows up and instantly destroys the big problems. And I just think that overall, if the problem had been solved by Rimuru, it would have been a far more satisfying conclusion, since we know that Rimuru was trying to show his power as a demon lord to those around him. And, well, he wasn't trying to, but basically he was OP at this point, and we want to see how he handles these opponents. And I really wish that we got to see that instead of just having Valentine show up and be like, suck it! And just, instantly poof away the problem and heal Hinata and just call it a day. Still, though, it's not the worst storyline ever. I'm glad that at this point, Hinata and Rimuru are on good terms now, which was nice. And they're building up stuff for the future, and I enjoyed some of that. But overall, I definitely think that the ending of that whole arc was extremely unsatisfying. I felt like it really could have been a lot better and handled in a more interesting way. And then, it goes back to being a meeting thing for a while, and that was a bit disappointing. But moving past the meetings, because as I said, I don't really want to talk about them anymore, we then get to the part of Season 3, which I consider to be the best part. The best part of this whole season is the festival. The festival that we focus on is by far the most entertaining part of the season. Not because it's perfect, there's still a lot of meetings that I got bored by, but it didn't change the fact that overall there were a lot more interesting things to happen. Such as, for example, Rimuru, after Ramarisk wants to come and join Tempest, ends up agreeing to have her build a dungeon here in Tempest for people to use. And we got to see them slowly construct a dungeon, which was really freaking interesting. I honestly really enjoyed it. I like how Veldora got in on it, and Malim and everyone else. It was really good. I had such a great time watching those episodes, seeing them slowly build the dungeon. It was very fun. And we also got to see how, Veldora sets up his own food stand at the festival, and they have a bunch of other stuff going down, and they even have this new character called Masayuki show up, who, in my opinion, is one of the best characters this season, because he's like one of those heroes who somehow everyone always ends up cheering on, but it turns out that he doesn't really care about that at all. He was literally given a skill that makes everybody see him as a hero, and it's just so good. Like, they managed to somehow make me hate how lucky he is, but fully understand the dude. Like, you'd think that I would hate a guy like this who's always just constantly getting what he wants, everything just works out the way he wants to, but at the same time, he doesn't care much about it any more than Rimuru or the others really want to care about it. So it's just so freaking funny, because he just does not want to deal with all this. He doesn't want to be the hero. He just wants to chill out, and it's just so freaking good. And Masayuki was by far, in my opinion, the best part of this season. Him and his antics and stuff were so funny. I really enjoyed them. And the fact that he's kind of part of Tempest now as like the poster person for the dungeon was super freaking good. And I think that he was an amazing addition to the cast. Though there were also some characters that were introduced in this season that I kind of forgot were even characters, because they were just mentioned at the start of the story of Slime, but then they just pop in now and they're like, hey, remember this character? Which I do not. But they're like, hey, remember this character? They're doing this now, which is just like cool. But Masayuki, definitely one of the best parts of this season. Really freaking enjoyed his stuff, especially with his fight against Gapta, which was incredibly entertaining. Heck, the whole tournament, I'm not really one for tournaments as much as other people are, but dang it, do I freaking love that tournament. That tournament was so freaking fun. I had such a great time with it, especially with how they just had Carrion walk in with a mask, pretending to just be another competitor, and after that, he tries to fight Gapta, and Gapta's just like, all right, I'm just gonna rip off your mask with help from Ranga. And it was so good. I love that tournament so much. So, well, as I said, don't love the meetings. Everything else in between, regardless of what it was super freaking entertaining, which is why I was very curious to see how the season would end, because after everything that we were building up to, so many difficult things were being prepped with the preparations for this festival that they were having. I was curious to see how would they wrap this up. Will they end it with some really interesting plot twist of somebody's trying to destroy the festival, or will they try to pull some other really cool thing? And then it's like, no, this guy just wants to make Tempest become reliant on him by offering up this special gold that these merchants will take, and it's the only type of money they'll take. And that's the whole scheme, to which it fails because Rimuru makes connections with the elves and also talks with the dwarves and stuff and gets the money he needs. So that whole plot falls apart really freaking quick. And as a whole, it's not an awful way to end it, honestly, when the main villain, who's actually just a puppet, shows up and is like, oh yeah, I'll help out Rimuru in exchange for you relying on me, only for him to be like, wait, what? You already have the money? Oh crap! That was very funny. I really freaking enjoyed that. But then after that, we end the season with another meeting, and it felt so anticlimactic, especially with how the meeting ends, and then another meeting starts, and then that meeting takes the rest of the episode to finish. And it just feels like such an awkward and just overall weak way to end the season. Like, it could have ended on such a better note. It could have had a way better twist to wrap things up, but they just didn't go for it. They were just like, the festival's over, moving on, nothing happened, that's just how it is. And I feel like there was just such missed potential there. Like, there was so much potential to really make this festival super freaking interesting, but they just didn't do it. Now, there were some little things in there they also sprinkled in that I did enjoy, like how they make references to the characters from the movie and OVAs, which I thought was really nice. And by references, I mean the characters literally show up, which I liked, even though they didn't have any talking lines or anything, they just showed up for a little bit. That was nice, I enjoyed that. I still think that the season overall could have been a heck of a lot better, and that's why overall, I just think that it had some moments that really didn't hit. Now, I won't say, of course, once again, it's bad. I won't say it's bad. It's just that I feel like it could have handled things a bit better. I do think it handles things better than how Tsukimichi Season 2 did it, where it was constantly building up, only for nothing to really happen in the end besides some awkward climaxes that other people were loving but I wasn't into. Compared to that, Slime did manage to hit its climaxes pretty well, with the first big one being Hinata against Rimuru, which, while not perfect, I did enjoy. And then the actual festival and stuff, I really freaking enjoyed. I liked a lot of that, and I think that Slime definitely handled its payoff a lot better. But I still think that overall, this felt more like a second season of Slime Diaries than an actual season of Slime. And I really hope that when the next season comes around, which I believe a season 4 and a movie are in the works, I really hope they're good. Now, I'm not having high hopes for the movie because if you see my review on the last movie, you know how much I hated that movie. And then there's also season 4, which hopefully season 4 will be good. I've heard that there's some good stuff that happens in there, but I've been let down before by stuff. I mean, one example is The Misfit of Demon King Academy, which I'll get a review for that out sooner or later for the second half of that, but it just was not very good. So maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Slime Season 4 will be a dumpster fire, but hopefully that is not the case because I really do care about this series and I want to see it handle itself in a much better manner than it has so far. And overall, I just think that Slime Season 3 was by far the weakest season of Slime. It has its good moments. I really enjoyed seeing Tempest improve. And while I definitely think that the meetings could have been really cut down and just moved along a lot faster, for what it is, it's not bad. It's not awful. There were a few meetings in there, in fact, I even enjoyed, but I definitely think that as a whole, Season 3 of Slime just doesn't add up to the first two seasons. And what's sad is just that the author of Slime has managed to balance the idea of world building along with plot before, which is why I'm so disappointed to see where things are now, because if you remember Season 1, we literally had an enemy create a demon lord of his own, which ends up leading towards his own death, getting beheaded and eaten. But that doesn't change the fact that it built up Clayman as an enemy since, he worked under Clayman. They built up a lot of stuff with that. And I wish they kind of did stuff like that here as well, where they actually built up the villains through plot, but they don't. They just kind of discuss them a little bit, which is whatever. I don't love it. I really could have cared less about it. And I think that the meetings were by far the weakest part of the season, but it is what it is. Overall though, Slime Season 3, not amazing, not awful, just kind of fine, which is sad to say for Slime, but it is what it is, and yeah, that's all I have to say on that. So we're at the conclusion of this video. What are my final thoughts? Overall, Slime Season 3 is fine. It's not the worst thing ever. It could improve in a lot of ways, but I don't hate it. It just is what it is. I can live with it. I don't love it. And while I think that there could have been some things improved upon, it's not an awful season. I just wish it could have been better. And that's why I give That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime Season 3 a 7 out of 10. It's not awful, it's not great, it is what it is, it's fine, but that's all it is, which is a bit sad to say about Slime, but as I said, it is what it is. And yeah, that's all I have to say on that, and thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I also do anime fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!